Welcome to the training for the SWAN Benchmarks with Cost and Time Tracking Guidelines. The benchmarks presented are applied to services referred on and after June 1, 2018. We will provide information about activities or practice steps within each benchmark and reporting the corresponding practice and travel cost and time. This training tool is one resource to assist you with reporting the costs and time incurred in the course of delivering SWAN services. Other helpful resources include the Affiliate SWAN Portal User Guide and Benchmark Forms, both of which are found in the SWAN Portal Help section. Additionally, a tutorial on the Benchmark Cost Time Log, which was implemented in the SWAN Portal in June 2018, specifically guides affiliates in the use of the log for reporting costs and time. Each SWAN unit of service has unique benchmarks. Benchmarks serve as an electronic tracking system that guides workers through the practice steps and timelines of the SWAN units of service. Benchmarks ensure that all affiliates deliver services in a consistent manner by addressing all of the practice steps for each service. Benchmarks are located in the SWAN portal and are required to be completed before a service can be invoiced. In addition to completing the required practice steps outlined in the benchmarks, affiliate agencies are required to report the cost and time incurred in the course of delivering SWAN services. The SWAN Prime Contractor offers two mechanisms for affiliates to report their cost and time data within the SWAN portal. Cost and time data is captured within the SWAN benchmarks or within the benchmark cost time log. Affiliates may choose to enter cost and time data within one or both of these mechanisms, but only one entry per action is permitted. A separate training on how to navigate the benchmark cost time log is located in the SWAN portal under the Help section. As mentioned earlier, the purpose of this training is to walk you through the individual benchmarks and provide guidelines on how to gather the practice and travel information needed to complete the benchmark cost time log. These guidelines apply regardless of the mechanism chosen to report cost and time information. Before we go on to address the benchmarks, let's briefly define their use and purpose. The benchmarks provide templates that must be completed at certain junctures of the work. These templates help guide the progress of the work of the affiliate. They also allow for standardization of the tasks affiliates are asked to complete. The benchmarks also provide a checks and balances system. Affiliate workers and supervisors can quickly see what activities have already been accomplished and what work still needs to be done in order to complete the unit of service. SWAN technical assistants can also tap into benchmarks to assist affiliates with any issues or clarifications needed around a specific unit of service. The benchmark cost time log streamlines the cost and time reporting process. Guidelines for capturing cost and time are defined within the benchmark main numeric steps rather than within the numerous sub-steps for each benchmark. As mentioned previously, costs and time are logged in the main benchmark headings, also called the main numeric steps. To make it easier to remember, think of the main numeric steps as buckets. Each benchmark has somewhere between 4 to 8 buckets. When you think of filling your buckets, you will be doing so with the sub-steps. The sub-steps are the bucket contents. Again, while cost and time is only entered into the main numeric heading or bucket, you will need to know and account for time associated with every benchmark sub-step. It's important that when you are listing your practice time and travel time, you review all the steps within each bucket and make sure you have accounted for each item. Guidelines for tracking costs and time are included with each benchmark. The guidelines are listed right next to the bucket they cover. Remember to become familiar with all of the different items listed in the guidelines next to the bucket. You want to be certain to accurately reflect your practice and the associated costs and time. To illustrate these terms, these are sample pages from the child profile benchmarks. The single thick blue arrow points to 1, initial referral. This is the first main numeric step or first bucket of this benchmark. 2, initial contact, is the second main numeric step or second bucket, and so on throughout the benchmarks. The 3 thinner arrows point to substeps or bucket contents. These bucket contents fill the initial referral, main numeric step number 1 or first bucket. You will also notice cost and time guidelines next to each main numeric step for easy reference. The guidelines are highlighted in red throughout the training for illustration purposes. Now that we understand the structure of the SWAN benchmarks, we will go through each unit of service and discuss the actions to capture within the main numeric step or buckets when completing each SWAN unit of service. We will start with child profile benchmarks. The first main numeric step is initial referral. In this bucket, you enter the practice and travel time spent notifying the county of acceptance and case assignment of the referral, as well as notifying the county and SWAN Regional Technical Assistant if rejecting the referral. This is the first benchmark step for every SWAN unit of service, and the direction for tracking practice and travel is the same for the initial referral of each unit. Therefore, we will not repeat instructions for initial referral when reviewing the remaining units of service. The second main numeric step is initial contact. The practice and travel time tracked in this bucket includes contacting the county to discuss accessing records, setting up a timeline of tasks and responsibilities, completing the CY 130, and contact and follow up with the Pennsylvania Adoption Exchange. Main numeric step number 3 of the child profile benchmarks is interviewing and information gathering. This bucket should contain the practice and travel time spent requesting, discussing, and obtaining information about the child from record reviews and interviews with collateral contacts. This includes interviews conducted and information gathered in person, over the phone, and through written correspondence. Remember to include the time spent scheduling the interviews, obtaining proper releases of information, and tracking down records. Time spent following up on and clarifying information should be captured in this bucket as well. Main numeric step number 4 is completion of child profile. Bucket number 4 should include time spent outlining, writing, submitting, and finalizing the child profile document and the one-page synopsis of the child. Supervisory review and editing should be included in this bucket as well. Remember to include practice and travel time to discuss and make any revisions requested by the county. Bucket number 4 also includes the time spent tracking cost and time throughout the course of the unit and the supervisory time reviewing entry of cost or time. A question frequently asked about this unit of service is, where do we enter the time it takes for obtaining certification from the county? Time spent obtaining certification for the child profile should be gathered here in Bucket 4, completion of child profile. Moving on, let's review child preparation benchmarks. As mentioned previously, main numeric step number 1 is the same for each unit. Main numeric step number 2 is initial contact. The practice and travel time in this bucket includes scheduling and conducting a record review, obtaining consent to review records, as well as identifying and contacting collateral parties. Main numeric step number 3 is child preparation planning and information gathering. In bucket number 3, include time spent planning for, meeting about, gathering information for, and developing the child preparation plan and initial contact form in collaboration with team members. Include the time spent writing the documents, and don't forget the supervisory time for review and subsequent revisions to the documents. Bucket number 3 also includes the time spent planning for, contacting, and meeting with the child's current primary caregivers and any future identified caregivers. The purpose of the meeting is to prepare them for the child preparation process and issues that may arise, and to inform them how they may participate in the process. This includes any phone, written, or face-to-face contacts. Please note, bucket number 3 includes the time spent for the initial meeting that occurs within 30 days of the referral. This is the meeting to begin engagement and introduction of child preparation with the child. Subsequent meetings for the ongoing child preparation sessions are captured by the next bucket. Main numeric step number 4 is child preparation meetings, session, and documentation. This bucket includes practice and travel time spent preparing for and conducting child preparation sessions for a minimum of 10 sessions over 6 months. This includes the time spent planning, obtaining, and organizing lifebook materials outside of the actual child preparation sessions. It also includes time in the meetings or sessions with the child and caretakers, as well as recording notes if applicable after the meetings. Bucket number 4 is also where to gather time spent documenting sessions and completing, printing, editing, and mailing the child preparation meeting activity reports and final summary report. Meeting activity reports are submitted to the county a minimum of every 2 months. The final summary report is submitted after 6 months and a minimum of 10 face-to-face sessions. Don't forget to include time spent for supervisory review and edits of these documents. This bucket is where to gather time spent communicating about, preparing for, attending and documenting court hearings or closure meetings if required. A question asked frequently about gathering time spent conducting session is, how do we count hours for group child preparation? To count hours for group child preparation, calculate hours per child. Do this by dividing the total number of personnel hours for the group preparation by the number of children in the group. For example, if you spend 2 hours preparing for the session, 2 hours facilitating it, and 1 hour documenting it, this equates to 5 hours for the session. If 5 children are in the session, this equates to 1 hour per child. If 2 staff members each spend 5 hours on the preparation, then you would have 10 hours of staff time for the group session. 5 hours times 2 staff equals 10 hours. This equates to 2 hours per child if 5 children were in the group. Remember, we are not documenting what services children receive, but rather the time necessary to deliver the services they receive. Main numeric step number 5 is completion of child preparation. This bucket gathers time spent discussing an additional referral with the county, if appropriate, and submitting a printed or electronic copy of the life book to the county. Bucket number 5 also includes the time spent tracking cost and time throughout the course of the unit and the supervisory time reviewing entry of costs and time. Let's move on to the next unit, Child-Specific Recruitment, also called CSR. Remember, main numeric step number 1, initial referral, is the same as the previous units. Main numeric step number 2, initial contact and planning, includes practice and travel time spent requesting and reviewing the child profile and conducting a thorough record review. It also includes identifying all family members and friends found in the record, as well as identifying resources, if applicable, through discussion with the child preparation worker. Bucket number 2 also gathers practice and travel time spent determining if the child needs to be registered with the Pennsylvania Adoption Exchange, also known as PAE, and asking the county or assisting the county to submit the CY 130 to PAE if the child needs to be registered. This bucket includes time spent identifying the CSR team and providing the names, contact information, and roles of team members to the county. Also, time is gathered here for scheduling a meeting with the caseworker or the caseworker's supervisor within 30 days of referral to complete the CSR plan and initial contact form. Time spent writing, editing, and submitting these documents, as well as obtaining signatures, is also tracked. Don't forget the supervisory time for review and any revisions to the documents. Main numeric step number 3 is recruitment activities, meetings, documentation. This bucket includes practice and travel time spent planning, preparing for, conducting, and documenting CSR sessions, including discussion with child about search for at least one significant connection with a supportive adult. Time spent communicating about, preparing for, attending and documenting recruitment efforts and opportunities, including but not limited to SWAN quarterly and statewide meetings and the summer conference, is gathered in Bucket 3. You should also include time spent contacting potential resources immediately after the meeting or conference. This bucket also gathers time spent obtaining, reviewing, and mailing family profiles, contacting and meeting with potential families, reviewing the case on a monthly basis, and discussing identified families with the county. Practice and travel time spent communicating about, preparing for, submitting reports, or attending court hearings or transition team meetings is also captured in Bucket 3. Time spent obtaining written or verbal county authorization to contact birth family, resources, or connections also falls in the bucket. The time spent writing, editing, and mailing CSR monthly and final reports, as well as supervisory review and edits of these documents, is collected here as well. Main numeric step number 4 is search and engagement tools. This bucket includes practice and travel time spent requesting, reviewing, conducting, and meeting about ongoing accurate or diligent search efforts. It also includes related activities such as creating a list of all possible family members and resources from ongoing searches, contacting and communicating with family members and other resources to obtain information, and interviewing family members to determine additional resources. Cost and time spent to review, contact, and engage identified family members and other connections to determine commitment level is also tracked. Remember to include all types of contact such as phone, social media, email, letters, and face-to-face conversations. Bucket number 4 also gathers practice and travel time spent communicating with the county to clarify roles in family meetings. Bucket 4 also includes the scheduling of and attendance at the follow-up meetings with caseworkers and team members within 2 weeks of the family meeting to determine the follow-up needed and the identified connections. Time spent reevaluating and revising the CSR plan with the county and the recommendation of additional SWAN services is also collected in bucket number 4. Main numeric step number 5 is completion of CSR. Here, include practice and travel time spent preparing and mailing the CSR final report, CSR plan, flyers, and any other recruitment materials developed throughout the unit of service to the county agency. Time spent recommending another CSR unit is also gathered here. Bucket number 5 also includes the time spent tracking cost and time throughout the course of the unit and the supervisory time for reviewing entry of cost and time. The next benchmark is family profile. Main numeric step number 1, initial referral, is the same as the previous units. Main numeric step number 2, or bucket 2, is initial contact. For an affiliate referred family profile, this bucket includes practice and travel time spent contacting the family. For a county referred family profile, this bucket includes practice and travel time spent contacting the county agency. In either referral, contact occurs within 5 business days of receiving the referral. Main numeric step number 3 is family orientation and agency introduction. Here, practice and travel time is captured for actions related to providing agency information. This includes compiling and mailing an orientation packet and preparing for and conducting a face-to-face orientation. Main numeric step number 4 is interviewing and information gathering. Bucket 4 includes practice and travel time spent receiving the family's application and family profile authorization agreement, completing the previous agency affiliation request, obtaining required documents such as clearances and references, and assisting applicants in completing their autobiography. Include time spent instructing the family, completing forms with them if necessary, transporting them to medical appointments, and, if applicable, follow-up calls and emails to obtain documents. This bucket also gathers time spent preparing for and interviewing applicants and household members, as well as preparing for and conducting the home visit, which includes completion of the home safety checklist. Main numeric step number 5 is family profile preparation or training. Bucket 5 should include practice and travel time spent confirming the family received or completed necessary training on the 8 SWAN components. Also, account for practice time spent reviewing curriculum materials to determine additional training needs for families who have received SWAN training but not in previous 12 months. This bucket also captures time spent planning and delivering training and completing transfer of learning forms as well as follow-up with families. Let's address several frequently asked questions connected to main numeric step number 5. One question frequently asked is, how do we track preparation time for families when we provide group training? The answer is to calculate the hours per family. Divide the total number of staff hours for the training by the number of families present. For example, if you spend 2 hours preparing for the training, 2 hours presenting, and 1 hour following up with transfer of learning forms, this equates to 5 hours for the session. If 5 families attend, this equates to 1 hour per family. If 2 staff members each spend 5 hours on the training, this equates to 10 hours of staff time for the training. 5 hours times 2 staff equals 10 hours. So it would be 2 hours per family if 5 families were in the group. Remember, we are not documenting what services the families receive, but rather what it costs your agency to provide services to them. One more question is, we use a training collaborative. How do we capture that time? First, when you train as part of a collaborative and deliver part of the curriculum, but none of your agency's families attend, keep track of all hours you train. Then, when you do have family in attendance, add the hours to those families. Use the comments section to explain the number of hours. When you train part of the curriculum, and some of the families are yours, determine how many hours you do in the rotation and divide it by the number of your families who participated. Use the comments section to explain the number of hours. Main numeric step number 6 is writing the family profile. Practice and travel time spent here includes organizing, outlining, formatting, writing, and editing various documents. These documents include the Families at a Glance document, Family Profile Synopsis, and Family Approval document. All 3 of these documents are completed for an affiliate-referred family profile. Only the Family Approval document is completed for a county-referred family. Main numeric step number 7 is determination and notification. Bucket 7 captures practice and travel time spent reviewing, documenting, and finalizing the recommendation of approval or non-approval. It also includes preparing for and conducting face-to-face meetings to inform applicants of approval or non-approval and obtaining a family signature on the document. This bucket also gathers time spent completing the CY 131 with the family and adding them to the Resource Family Registry. Main numeric step number 8, completion of family profile, includes practice and travel time spent submitting benchmarks to the county and tracking cost and time throughout the unit. Supervisory time spent reviewing entry of cost and time is also tracked. Let's move on to the next benchmark, placement. Main numeric step number 1, initial referral, is the same as the previous units. Main numeric step number 2 is matching activities and documentation. This bucket includes practice and travel time spent developing a matching plan with the family. This includes, but is not limited to, updating the CY 131 as needed, adding the family to Waiting Families at a Glance document, submitting family approval document to agencies upon request, and informing family about SWAN Connect. Time spent developing, completing, editing, and amending the family matching activities summary and family matching log should be captured here as well. This bucket also gathers time spent pursuing and reviewing potential matches with the family and interacting with the family at least monthly to track status of matching efforts. A question frequently asked about the placement unit is, where do we enter the time spent sending out profiles and reviewing child information with the family? Time spent on matching activities for the family and child who are the subjects of the referral is captured in main numeric step number 2. Main numeric step number 3 is review and discussion of identified child. Practice and travel time captured in bucket 3 includes the time spent contacting the custodial county agency or CSR agency to discuss the potential match. It also includes assisting the family in reviewing all available information on the child, including the child profile, predicting future financial obligations and long-term needs of the child, and addressing questions from family. Please note that time should only be tracked when it is spent on the child identified in the referral. Main numeric step number 4 is disclosure, decision, and PACA discussions. Practice and travel time gathered here should include time spent requesting and scheduling a joint meeting with the county, preparing and reviewing materials, preparing the family, participating in the meeting, and following up with the family and caseworker. Time spent assuring the family signs the Acknowledge of Receipt of Information form should also be captured in bucket number 4. This bucket should also include time spent confirming PACA notifications and educating the family about PACA and, if applicable, developing, preparing, notarizing, and verifying that the PACA is ready to submit to court before finalization. Main numeric step number 5 is transitioning the child. The practice and travel time entered here includes the time spent on development, review, and revisions of the individual permanency service plan and providing copies to the family and county. In addition, bucket number 5 includes time spent completing the home safety checklist, child safety assessment safety plan, and updates. Don't forget to include time for supervisory review and edits of documents. Bucket number 5 also captures time spent coordinating and communicating about pre-placement visits. Remember to include all types of communication, such as phone, email, written correspondence, and in-person conversation. Main numeric step number 6 is completion of placement and includes practice and travel time spent submitting benchmarks to the county and tracking cost and time throughout the unit. Supervisory time spent reviewing entry of cost and time should also be tracked. The last benchmarks we will look at are the finalization benchmarks. Main numeric step number 1, initial referral, is the same as the previous units. Main numeric step number 2 is initial contact, verifying documents, and clarifying roles. Practice and travel time captured in bucket number 2 includes time spent communicating with the county worker about tasks and responsibilities, legal paperwork requirements, status of TPR, and finalization proceedings. Bucket number 2 also includes time spent requesting and reviewing the child profile, requesting a family profile addendum if needed, and discussion about subsidy. Remember to include all types of contact and communication, both written and verbal. A question frequently asked regarding this bucket is, how do you track time spent for collaborating with the county to determine county and affiliate roles in developing and implementing the individual permanency service plan? Only track time spent discussing the individual permanency service plan, not in creating it, as this is tracked in a different bucket. Main numeric step number 3 is Post-Adoption Contact Agreement, also referred to as PACA. This bucket includes the practice and travel time spent determining and documenting that PACA notices were sent. For example, you call a family to inquire if they received a PACA notice. During the conversation, they tell you they are unsure if they received one. You go on to explain to them what a PACA is and what a notice looks like. They reply that they did not receive one. Then, you email the county worker to find out if a notice was ever sent to the family. You would capture the time spent on the phone call with the family and writing the email to the county worker in bucket number 3. Main numeric step number 4 is Supervision of Placement. Bucket number 4 gathers practice and travel time spent providing ongoing support to the child and family, providing supervisory reports consistent with Attachment H in the SWAN Bulletin at least once every 2 months to the county agency, and monitoring the child's safety. Include all time spent in the home for weekly supervisory visits, such as monitoring the child's safety. Also include time spent engaging or educating the family, resolving crisis situations during or after hours, advocating for the family by, for example, attending meetings. Track time spent coordinating visits or respite and preparing supervisory reports. Include all phone calls and written and in-person contacts. Also include planning and follow-up time when providing ongoing support to the child and family. This bucket also includes time related to the IPSP. Be sure to track time spent scheduling, planning, meeting about, reviewing, and implementing the IPSP. Include time spent in the actual development of the document, travel time to the family's home or county, and time spent with the family and county during development or review. Remember to include supervisory review and edits of the IPSP and supervisory reports. Main numeric step number 5 is disclosure process. This bucket includes practice and travel time spent scheduling, preparing for, attending, and documenting a joint meeting between the county and family to discuss and share information. This bucket also captures time spent obtaining the acknowledge of receipt of information. Please note that your agency is responsible to share all the information obtained. The county is responsible for full disclosure of information. Main numeric step number 6 is final legal documentation and finalization hearing. This includes time spent verifying submission of required legal documents or completing and submitting legal documents as determined by the county. Also included in this bucket is time spent verifying that the clearances, medicals, and family profile are current, meaning within a year of finalization. It also includes providing copies of all documents to the county, including legal forms, medicals, clearances, and references. Be sure to include time spent for supervisory review and edits of documents. Bucket number 6 also captures time spent preparing for, attending, and testifying at the finalization court hearing. Finally, main numeric step number 7 is completion of finalization. This bucket includes time spent preparing and uploading the child profile to the Pennsylvania Adoption Information Registry, or PAIR, and updating and submitting the CY 131. Be sure to track cost and time throughout the course of the unit and supervisory time reviewing entry of cost and time. Any referral received before January 2016 will not have cost and time tracking. Any referral received from January 2016 to July 1, 2018, the cost and time tracking will be done using the benchmark substeps. The benchmark substeps will appear as a drop-down box in the benchmark column of the cost time log, and the affiliate will need to choose the substep that applies to the particular activity they are logging. Any referral received after July 1, 2018, cost and time will be tracked in the main numeric steps, or buckets, only. The affiliates will not track time in the individual substeps of the benchmarks. In closing, here are 4 tips to remember when tracking costs and time. Tip number 1. Although practice cost and time will only be tracked in the benchmark main numeric step or bucket, workers are responsible for knowing and performing all the benchmarks, including benchmark substeps and practice within the guidelines. Tip number 2. It is helpful to have a full set of benchmarks available online or in front of you for reference when entering your practice cost and time to assure all your time is captured. Benchmarks are available in the SWAN Portal Help section and the SWAN Permanency Toolkit. Tip number 3. Completing tracking in real time will help assure you are not forgetting any tasks. Finally, tip number 4. Be sure to make use of the comments section within the benchmarks to help with assuring activities have been completed and accurately tracked. Additional resources can be found in the portal help, including the Affiliate SWAN Portal User Guide and benchmark forms. As always, you can contact your regional technical assistant with questions at any time. Thank you for your attention to this training and for the work that you do to ensure our network thrives in serving Pennsylvania's children and families.